Welcome back to the channel. What is going on? We are off the back of a massive, massive win against Brentford. I think Chelsea are in a title race, and I've looked at last season, and there is reason to suggest Chelsea could win the league. Like Maresca said yesterday, fans can now dream. That result is so huge for Chelsea this season. So many people are like, it's only Brentford. What are you on about? Brentford are awful away from home. We've struggled in that game a lot against Brentford since they've been promoted. I think we haven't won against them in the last 5 fixtures. 2022, we're 6 wins unbeaten. We're going for 7 wins in a row with Thomas Tuchel in charge. They beat us 4-1. Last year, that's when Robert Sanchez was the fastest player in the Premier League, chasing down Neil Maupay. We were horrific. We got a draw last season. Poch had Enzo at left wing. That win yesterday was not comfortable. It was difficult. It was always going to be, but we've turned a corner. I can tell you that now. Off the back of that result, that's a fantastic 3 points for Chelsea to get, especially with Liverpool dropping points, Arsenal dropping points, Manchester City losing to Manchester United in the way that they did. All of the teams around Chelsea failed this weekend to solidify themselves in a real push for the title. And I know Chelsea had Brentford, but Brentford are the second highest scoring team in the Prem right now. And yes, we've already touched it, away from home. They haven't been good enough, but it doesn't mean they're an easy opponent. Even when Mbuemo scored, I still felt like, could they have a chance? Even at 1-0 before Jackson scored, I still didn't feel comfortable. At no point during that game were Brentford making that an easy game. They just weren't. It's not the side that they are. I don't think a game against Brentford is ever going to be straightforward. And we navigated that really well. I mean, Jackson, let's go with Jackson first, because he scored the winner. And I think that's a real positive, because the last couple of games, we saw it against Tottenham, obviously, was very emotional. This game wasn't going that favorably for him. He's missed a chance that was reminiscent of last season. And I was slightly concerned at what might happen then. I thought, is his head going to drop? Is that Jackson for the afternoon or the evening? Because that was an incredibly late Sunday kickoff, actually. But I thought, Jackson last season, I'm not sure what happens here. That goal that he then scored after having that miss in the emotional state that he's currently been in is fantastic. He takes a touch away from his man and hits the ball so early, the keeper's got no time to react. That is like watching a prime number 9. We've had him before, Drogba, Costa. That is a proper forwards goal. A player who isn't low on confidence scores that type of goal. And I have to say, that's where Jackson has transformed so much. He's turned a corner so impressively, because I don't think that happens last season. There's a reason he's moving up the scoring table every single week right now. The guy is having a really good season. He's able to finish so many different opportunities. And yes, a couple of hit and miss moments in the last few games, but he's back on track now, and that will do him the world of good. You could see the relief on his face, and he's only missed like two games where he hasn't been fantastic. And then he ends up with a goal before the game's even finished, because it was only the other week he scored that fantastic goal with his left foot and everyone was applauding him. And then he's had a bit of a spell since then where he wasn't great. And he struggled and he come off, and he was upset that he didn't score against Spurs after getting a hat-trick there last season. I think he thought he'd probably get another hat-trick. But that's what happens. He's still a young guy, but he really is maturing quickly. And I have to say that I have a lot of trust with him going forwards. I just wanted to get that point out there, because it'd be very easy for us to say, oh, we can go and replace Jackson and we can definitely do better. And look, I believe there are better strikers out there, but I think you have to look at what Jackson can become. And if we look at how quickly he's changed from last season to where we are now, the difference is mind-blowing. This is a guy whose trajectory is moving in a really upward curve at a really alarming rate. It's great to see from a Chelsea point of view because what did he cost us? 30 million? He was a summer window, a January transfer window. He's linked with Bournemouth. Now we've got him. And then look at it. Since then, he's just gone on and on and on. Even better every single game. What a player. What a mindset. And I have to give him praise. I really, really do because I feel confident with Jackson up front. I feel confident that this guy can win us games of football. I really, really do. And I feel like actually, do you know what? And this is one of the biggest compliments you can give to a striker. I feel like I can rely on him. He is an important piece to this puzzle if Chelsea are going to be able to go and win the league. Because there is no doubt about it. Offensively is where Chelsea are stronger than the majority of teams in the Prem. And we'll move on to this defensively. Look, a lot of people keep saying Chelsea have issues defensively. Chelsea have issues with the goalkeeper. And I've said that a number of times this season. I think if Chelsea aren't able to win the league this season, that's where the faults will be found defensively. Individual mistakes from players that's quality isn't as good as some of the other players we've got on the pitch. And I think yesterday wasn't the greatest example of that, but it just we showed frailties yesterday. I think of even a player like Caicedo yesterday got caught in possession. It ultimately led to them getting a chance. I think it may have even been the one they scored from. I think about Tosin. Had an okay game yesterday. To be fair to him, coming in, I wasn't sure what to expect. He'd had a long trip away, and I didn't know whether or not he'd be up for it. I thought physically, actually, he's probably the right call because Brentford have got some absolute units in their team. But Tosin had a few slip-ups defensively, and I think against a team better than Brentford, they could be costly. I think Sanchez, we saw him take a horrific touch. It's constant lack of concentrations. Levi, that's not his cleanest game that he's ever had in a Chelsea shirt, even though I think he's probably been our most consistent defender this season in terms of centre-backs. Because actually, full-backs-wise, I think we're pretty okay. Gusto and Cucurella fill me with a lot of confidence as well. I think they're two of the better full-backs in the Prem. Without a doubt, Cucurella has been absolutely fantastic and he got a great goal yesterday, but we'll come on to that in a minute. I want to talk about Chelsea defensively and just sort of get to the point of whether or not this is a lazy narrative because Chelsea absolutely do have issues defensively, in my opinion. And you know when Maresca sits there and he says, I don't think we're ready. If you ask me, I'm not sure. Maresca obviously knows what it takes for a team to win a league because he's done it with Leicester. Okay, the quality in the competition is obviously very different because if you look at Leicester now, there's a huge drop-off. Him leaving and obviously the results they've had in the Prem, it's not great. It shows the level between the Championship that they dominated last season and then the step up to the Prem. It's a very, very similar group of players, albeit different manager that we've now got that is flourishing with us. But defensively, we have to look at individual errors that I think have been in this team all season. I look at us as a unit. I think we're okay. Set piece wise, we're doing a little bit better than we were a few weeks ago. But it was only before this Brentford game I was looking and I was chatting to a couple of people around this that Chelsea's expected conceded goals, we were outperforming that by 8. That means that Chelsea should have conceded 8 more goals than they have. And I'm not a massive stat man, but I think stats like that are quite important. They're quite informative to suggest that sometimes the keeper's putting off a worldie. Sometimes the player's got through one-on-one and he's missed a chance that he definitely should have scored. Sometimes the defender gets a block in that no one saw coming. But the opportunity was there for someone more clinical or a worse keeper. That could be a goal. And ultimately, Sanchez has actually done very well probably with that metric because the amount of times I've seen him pull off a really good save is probably underrated this season because of how much stick he gets for what he does with the ball at his feet. And that's the worry for me is what happens when that stat starts to level out. Are we going to be conceding more goals or are we improving and riding our luck with that stat? And by the time we level out, actually, our team's better. We've had a bit of a blow with Fofana obviously getting injured. Badashile apparently now has picked up a knock in training. He's not going to be fit throughout the Christmas running. So it looks like we're going to be going into this with obviously Disasi Tosin, Colwell, probably Cucurella as a versatile player if needed, and probably maybe a Vega or someone like Josh Achampong. Players like that could be the potential players that are looking to get minutes throughout the running during Christmas, because these players now, Badashile and Fofana, are out, and they've actually been good for us this season. I think that Badashile injuries come at a really bad time for Chelsea. But I think we will ride it through. We will see where we are after the run-in, and hopefully defensive improvements are made. I think it's a matter of time. We're conceding chances off of individual mistakes. Individual mistakes, they're correctable. They're correctable in two ways. It's either with quality, and you buy to improve so the mistakes don't happen, because there are quality gaps where better players make less mistakes normally, or you go out, you work on the training pitch every single day to start putting those mistakes right, and you as a player improve. And they're the two ways you can go about it. Obviously, you can spend money and hope that the problem gets solved quicker, or on the training pitch, you can work and hopefully that gets rectified and it doesn't happen again, or it might take a season, but the season after that, you don't look back. It all depends on how long it takes for these mistakes to be eradicated. Mistakes are still happening right now. We're getting away with it. So as long as we get away with it, or we can outscore it, and that's how we get away with it, we'll be okay. They're just the issues that are there. Better teams may restrict Chelsea scoring as freely as they can currently do. And that's the only concern I have around Chelsea really not being good enough to win this Premier League right now. Because going forwards, everywhere I look, there aren't any doubts for me. We look fantastic. Jadon Sancho, I've been waxing lyrical about this guy in recent weeks. He looks so good. He looks so sharp. I don't think I've seen Jadon look like this in a long time. I actually look at Chelsea's squad, and all right, we're starting to pick up a couple of injuries now, but it's always the case when the going gets tough. When you start rotating in the way that we do and the weather gets cold, injuries happen. It's just that's just football. But when you look at a player like Sancho, the transformation is crazy. It shows the levels that Maresca expects from his squad fitness-wise. We've seen it before with a couple of our Italian managers. They are very regimented around fitness and diet-related stuff. Now, I don't know what happens with Maresca in the dressing room. I'm just not sure. But what I will say is it's obvious to see this Chelsea team are way, in my opinion, they look fitter and they look fresher in every single game that we play, even though Poch was renowned for improving fitness. I actually think Poch's methods wore a team out if they weren't able to handle that. And it was only players like Conor Gallagher that could handle it, that really thrived and were able to play so many minutes and were constantly fit, because they're the type of player that can constantly handle that. Players that can't need to be managed in a different way. And I think Sancho is exactly that. He's fit, he's firing, he's ready to go, he looks sharp, but he's not being run into the ground, so that when it comes around to match day, he is good to go. And I think we're seeing that at the moment. That's why he looks so good. Going around the forward line, I feel like however we rotate, I'm confident right now. Whether it's Neto, Madueke, whether it's Sancho, whether it's Palmer, whether Felix can find a way into the team. If Nkunku comes on, I trust him to be able to score. He's still our highest scorer. He scored 12 goals this season, albeit a lot of them are in competitions away from the Prem. He is still scoring goals, and I'd back him to continuously score goals if he's given the chance. Jackson is scoring goals like we've already touched on. Palmer is creating if he's not. A player that has stepped up slightly away from the forward line but finds himself creeping into it more often than not is Enzo Fernandez. And again, one of the best players, going for a real purple patch at the moment for Chelsea. I hope this isn't just that and this is his level, because the price tag and the form that we've seen from him before as a youngster in the World Cup for Argentina, and obviously when he arrived on the scene in Europe at Benfica, suggested he could get to this level. But we've seen him decline really at Chelsea up until the last sort of 2 months. He has been fantastic. And that pass yesterday, I mean, that's the pass, isn't it, that Fabregas was renowned for? A pass whipped through the middle of the pitch, low, that cuts through a defence around our striker, allowing him to curve his run into his path. That is such a high quality of pass. He's so aware. His pass IQ is perfect in that situation, because it puts Jackson in the exact position he needs to be in to maximise his opportunity of scoring a goal. That's the sort of stuff I haven't seen Enzo Fernandez doing. And now his confidence is high. You're getting to see the best of him. We really are. That pass, the way it was executed, the way it was finalised with what Jackson did as well, that is, for me, one of Chelsea's goals of the season. I think it was so clinical. It showed such a high level of quality because that could cut through any defence. That finish from Jackson, the way he did it, the way he took the ball on his right foot, shifted it, shot, got his goal off, got his shot off, got the goal. That is absolutely fantastic. It's hard to do. It's not easy. That's why you don't see that type of goal every week in the Prem for absolute definite. Only the best are capable of scoring goals like that. Chelsea look like a team that are so dangerous in so many ways of attacking. It goes up to our wingers. I believe them to work an opportunity, whether they take a man on, they dribble into the box, they get to the byline, they cross, they can get a shot from outside the box. Player like Cole Palmer is so unpredictable. Jackson is becoming more and more clinical with every type of goal in his locker. Midfielders scoring goals. Where do Chelsea stop? Well, they don't, because now we go to our fullbacks and players like Cucurella are stepping up. And we've seen in recent weeks players like Caicedo are stepping up. We've seen Disasi score in the Premier League from a set piece recently. Chelsea are showing that there are so many different ways to skin a cat. And we look fantastic for it, because no matter how a team sets up against Chelsea, we look like we have a way of breaking it down. And that is what is so, so impressive, because Chelsea are absolutely flying at the moment. And when confidence is high, players step up, players believe, players try things they wouldn't normally try, and we're reaping the rewards for it at the moment. And high quality goals yesterday are the reason that Chelsea are able to win games like that against Brentford that we haven't done in the past. But also, we held on defensively. As much as we might make mistakes, when I've said this, individually we make mistakes, and that's where I think we're not ready. But as a unit, we are absolutely coping. I think as a unit that's being set up, following its manager's instructions, being left as that rest defence where a number of players are back, ready if the counter-attack happens. If we press high, we're man for man in the majority of games that we play. And it's so important that when you're man for man, every player wins their duel. If a ball comes to the player that they're pressing, they press him well enough to cause delay or make him turn around. That's exactly what's happening. We are winning our duels offensively and defensively all over the pitch. Hence why we're looking as good as we do. We got through a really tough game yesterday, but I want to show you something just before we wrap it up, because look, I know I feel like I could talk forever right now, but when it's good for Chelsea, it is such a good feeling. It hasn't been around enough in recent years. We all know that. But let me show you something. And this is where today I looked at the table and I thought, do you know what? We're in a good position, but what's it like in other seasons? I feel like a lot of the teams around us have got worse. Liverpool dropped points. I don't think they're worse than last season, but they did drop points. They've done it a couple of times this season, and we've taken an opportunity to close the gap there. Obviously, they've still got a game in hand. Arsenal have dropped points. Arsenal are definitely worse than last season. Manchester City, no one saw the fall off coming. Teams like Tottenham, Aston Villa, they're worse than they were last season. These are teams that got Europa League and Champions League. They're not there this season. Look at this. This is where Chelsea are at last season. Let me show you this. Chelsea are 12th. Like I nearly had to scroll, but thankfully we don't. 16 games played, which is what we're on right now. We'd won 5, drawn 4, lost 7, no goal difference. 19 points. Look at the top of the table. Liverpool, 16 games, 11 wins, 4 draws, 1 loss, which is very, very impressive. And I actually think, hang on, they actually might be, they're a point worse. Okay, so they're a point worse than last season. So actually, as much as we're praising Arne Slot, Klopp had them in a very similar, if not better position than last year. Although I think results-wise, it's very similar, actually. Let's have a look at that. It's actually, you know what, because they've got the game in hand, they're actually probably doing better than they were last season, maybe by like 2 points. But it's almost identical record. So actually not much has changed there. They've still got a very, very good team. Arsenal, the fall-off's huge. Not doing well enough, in my opinion, Arsenal. Arteta looks out of his depth, right? Look at where Chelsea are. 19th. We are so many points off. there, and we managed by the end of the season to get to 6th. So we did a really good job closing up. What's that? The best part of 8 points, 9 points. Like, we've done really, really well there because that's the gap, 19 to 27 points. Manchester City at this point were 4th on 33. Chelsea are currently 2nd on 34. Manchester City won the league last season from a worse position than Chelsea currently. Look, Manchester City had a fantastic team. Do not get me wrong. A better team, a better 11 than what Chelsea have right now. But it does show you that that gap is closable. And that's where we have to find belief. If we actually think we can win the league, we're playing better than probably 19 teams in the Premier League. I think we might be the best team in the Prem right now. Yes, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Our run-in at the end of the season is anything but favourable. But when you look at that and you look at the points, we'd be sat on our current points right now last season in 3rd. Manchester City closed a gap last season and went on to win the league. That means it's possible. That means Chelsea are in a title race. Can we do it? Look, I don't know. It's going to be tough, but we're playing some really good football at the moment. We're in one. And it's not whether you like it or not, because how can you not like it? How can you not want to win it? It's, are we good enough? Can this be maintained? Because if Chelsea are ahead of the curve and I have to sit there at the end of the season and say, I thought we'd finish 5th, maybe push for Champions League, I'll sit there and hold my hands up as I'm singing Champianis if that happens, because we look like we actually might be capable of doing something this season. I don't know what, I don't know how far that goes, but we could be in the running. It's just how we handle it. But we're looking very good. Make no mistake about this. Right now, we're in a title race. Can't deny it anymore. We're in one because the way these teams around us are dropping points and are allowing Chelsea to close the gap to the top, you're in it. And when you look at last season, when Manchester City have absolutely closed the gap bigger than what Chelsea have got right now to win the league, it means we could do it. Although they have players like Haaland and they've got players like De Bruyne and Rodri, Chelsea have got Caicedo, we've got Enzo flying, we've got Cole Palmer, we've got Jackson. We've got players that I think one day will be good enough to win a Premier League. I just don't know when. Look, can we do it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, make sure to smash a like on the video. We're going for 40 likes on all the videos at the moment because we're achieving that. And we're going for 4,000 subscribers on the channel. Chelsea are flying high. The blue flag is flying high. Let's keep it there. I will see you all in the next one. We've actually still got Europe to play this week. I'll be around on all the other lives that I do. I will see you soon in a bit.